And now to the story that got pushed off the front pages of the op-ed by the op-ed story. It's Bob Woodward's new book. Like Michael Wolfe and Omarosa before him, Woodward paints a devastating portrait of the Trump administration. But given his journalistic stature, this book got more lift from fellow journalists. Bob Woodward's latest book is Fear: Trump in the White House.
Top officials in the Trump White House describing an alarming situation, detailing a president not up to the job intellectually or temperamentally.
To underscore Woodward's credibility, reporters took note of his Watergate fame.
Legendary journalist Bob Woodward.
Veteran journalist Bob Woodward's new book, Fear.
Citing hundreds of hours of research and dozens of interviews, plus handwritten notes by the president, the book is unflattering, to say the least.
Words like erratic, unhinged, alarmed, just over and over again.
Woodward says he tried many times to interview the president for the book but failed. Then, on August 14th, the president called him.
Sorry we missed the opportunity to talk for the book.
Well, I just spoke with Kellyanne, and she asked me if I got a call. I never got a call. I never got a message. Who did you ask about speaking to me?
But hold the phone. Woodward is talking to the president. He had him on the line for a full 13 minutes and never once said, "Well, I have you," instead lamenting that the manuscript was already done.
The explosive new book about President Trump and the White House,
which could have had a few more pops if he'd gone to rewrite. Yeah, that was painful, that conversation. He never, the whole time they talked about the fact that he never got a chance to interview him, but for 13 minutes he could have been interviewing him. And that goes to the point where he said the thing was done. I have always had a problem with books being news or making this kind of news. And I have to say, when I was driving home from upstate New York on Tuesday, I think it was, CNN, they were doing the Kavanaugh hearing, but they went crazy over this book. It was like the only thing happening that day. And I was trying to put myself in Trump's shoes for a few minutes. I thought, he may have a point about CNN to a degree.
It felt like the book sounds like a Michael Wolfe do-over with somebody with much more credibility. It's been called old news.
Yeah, old news. Yeah.
I mean, Woodward is the gold standard, and I think that we can take him. And plus, he blew the title. Obviously, it should have been Crazy Town.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm wondering about is that Woodward followed all of the formal rules of how you get somebody to give you an interview. But I wonder how much he really wanted to interview
he probably
him.
didn't.
Because President Trump is kind of famous for just call him up.
Exactly. That's what he said to him.
And and I don't doubt that
He said, we have operators here. They would have put him through.
Sure. And I mean, there are probably people at the Washington Post who have the president's cell phone number. I think that he probably had his narrative. It was all in place, and he didn't necessarily want the president to come in and just lie about everything and essentially mess up the narrative.
I completely agree with you. And if you read the transcript of the phone call, there were several opportunities when you thought he would have jumped in and started conducting an interview, if you will. And the president even seemed to be wanting to conduct an interview, offering up, I've done this for the country and I've done that. And every time he just, like a broken record, kept coming back to the fact that, well, I wish we could have had you. I made an attempt to have you, when he could have thrown out some questions. And I do have that sense that he did not want the president to be in the book, but was hoping that somehow he could get something maybe like this. Maybe he was expecting a phone call, maybe not. But it almost gives him cover. And he was going out of his way to say, I tried like crazy to get you, and I couldn't. So, this is your fault if you don't like the end result.
It was interesting to hear the conversation. I thought it showed how muddy and complicated journalism can be if you do try to go through the front door, which ostensibly he was trying to do with this interview. Kellyanne, why didn't you tell me about this? Oh, yeah, I do remember that thing about Lindsey Graham telling me that you wanted to talk. It just shows how it can be a little muddy, and it's a little difficult sometimes to connect with somebody like Donald Trump. But I agree with you. I think if he really wanted to talk to him, he would have called him directly, probably has his cell phone number, and could have called him directly before that moment.
I'm not sure he didn't.
And he might have.
I think that he wanted to play that out so that people could see for themselves. This actually is a reflection of every other incident in this book, as recounted by other people. He says one thing, then in the space of a few minutes he says another thing, then he says he really wants to do it, then he says, no, I don't want to do it, then he just flat out lies, then Kellyanne walks in and he lies when she's there. So I thought that that was his purpose. I'm just playing this out. I'm not here to do an interview with him because this is just as good as gold, watching you lie to me on the phone about how many people you didn't hear from. That we could have talked, but you could have. Come on.
But he admitted that
he did hear from Lindsey Graham.
Yes.
Which I found out. Did he all of a sudden have a moment of truth?
He said in passing. He said he.
Well, first he sort of heard from him, then he kind of sort of did.
Yeah,
I actually believed Trump on this. He's got a formal process for going through, and somebody grants interviews to the president, and it's not the president himself.
Right.
Well, Kellyanne was clear. She said, "Oh, I asked people, and they said no." Of course, she said no. I mean, of course they said no.
Right.
Come on. So. I just think that he wanted everybody to hear, this is what we're talking about. So here's a reflection of Crazy Town in this very trying to get an interview with the guy. That's what I took away from it. And maybe he could have asked some questions. I don't know. But I actually thought it was quite instructive to hear him bat around what should have been a simple, sorry, we missed each other, or not sorry.
It's crazy.
The one thing that I really did pick up on that I give him credit for, because some people, well, not a lot, would have been weaselly about it and say, oh, I just wanted to have a chat with you. He was real clear. This is a tough book about your administration. It's going to be tough.
Trump
That's
got
why
that.
I wanted you to, respond,